Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carrie. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get going. So, so just so you know, at the end of the session tonight, we're going to email everyone a copy of the PowerPoint. So don't stress out about taking too many notes. We're also going to be recording tonight, so that will be available on our YouTube channel at some point and also on our website. So the replay will be available as well. If you've got any questions while I'm talking, can you just add them to the chat box? I'm just going to do a brief overview of naturopathic kinesiology, and then at the end I'll go through any of the questions that come up during the presentation. So thank you. A little bit about me. My name is Carrie. I am a naturopath and I'm also a kinesiologist. I have been in clinical practice as a naturopath for about 4 years. Prior to that, I was a practitioner consultant and like a sales rep really for Metagenics and Biomedica, and I did that for almost 8 years all up. I was pretty over it by the end. But it was such an amazing experience. It taught me a lot about practitioners, and I got a real bird's eye view of our profession, essentially. And so by the time I had resigned from my role as a practitioner rep and I was in practice, I was very excited to be finally seeing clients and really doing what I loved. But I'd always had in the back of my mind that there was more, and kinesiology had always sort of been there on my radar. When I was a rep, I often went to clinics and I often saw kinesiologists that were just always busy, like they were just always flat out, and I thought, oh, they know something that the naturopaths don't. And anyway, so my travels took me to NK, and that's where I ended up. And NK had sort of captured my interest because it looked like a very sort of unique way of doing kinesiology. And NK stands for neuroenergetic kinesiology, in case anybody isn't aware of that. And so I started studying NK, and I was still very new as a naturopath at the time, but what I found is that I was able to implement NK into my naturopathic practice very quickly and with really quite incredible results. And my clinic really evolved from there. And the other thing that really sort of stood out to me with NK is that I couldn't believe what an amazing combination it was, and a beautiful complement it was to the naturopathic way of thinking and the naturopathic way of treating. And I just thought, why don't more naturopaths know about this? You know, I think in my whole time as a rep, I'd come across, I think, 2 practitioners in Australia who I knew that used NK. So kinesiology is obviously very big out there. We all know kinesiology is quite popular and it's everywhere, but NK is, you know, is slightly different. It is a very unique way of working with kinesiology, and so yeah, that particular style I hadn't seen, and I thought, oh, that's really weird. So as I began to work more with NK, study NK further, and I'm currently doing an advanced diploma now in NK, and I started to get more passionate about sharing it with other practitioners just like myself, so naturopaths and nutritionists. So here I am tonight, and I've been collaborating with the NK Institute to put together specialised training programs for practitioners that were just like me. So I hope that you find it interesting and there's something in it for you. Okay, so just a little overview. So this is this slide is really just a summary of how I'm going to flow tonight's webinar. So you know, just step by step. So about NK. So as I said, NK stands for neuroenergetic kinesiology. It is probably one of the world's most modern forms of kinesiology. It uses a very sort of unique form of acupressure formatting, and that's, you know, in a nutshell, it harnesses energetic philosophies from, you know, Chinese medicine and the Indian yogic philosophies, and it marries it up with psychology and physiology and cutting-edge biochemistry. So it's really quite amazing how it brings together so many different facets. The actual founder of NK is Hugo Tobar. He, as you can see in this slide, he has a very impressive bio, and he has been developing NK for over 2 decades, and he's been doing that all around the world and is still doing it. So it's a very exciting modality to be a part of. Okay, so what is kinesiology? There's lots of different definitions out there, but we like to define it as a stress management system, because essentially that's what we're doing, is we're managing stress. So we use muscle testing, and that's really our tool. So muscle testing, I like to think of it as like a little communication channel between myself and my client's body, or their subconscious or their unconscious. And it helps me to locate stress in their energy field and in their body and in their nervous system. And muscle test allows us to read the type and the location and the quality of that stress as well. So stress can be on many different levels. We have physical stress, so biochemical or hormonal or anything like that. We have emotional stress, so that can be like some of our survival emotion. We have emotional pathways to do with survival, like rage, panic, fear, that kind of thing. We have mental stress, so that's our thoughts or our perceptions. And there may be spiritual stress, so that's like our life lessons, our spiritual path, that kind of thing. So this is a great little flow chart that really outlines the muscle test. So we've got essentially 3 brains. We've got our cortex, which is our conscious mind. It's who we are, who we think we are. We have our emotional brain, which is our limbic brain. It's our subconscious. It's where we store all our memories. We regulate our emotions and that kind of thing. And then we have our reptilian brain, which is our unconscious brain. So using muscle testing, we're actually able to, via the reticular formation, which is the motor response, we're actually able to measure stress in those different levels of our consciousness. So it's important to really note that muscle testing is very much a scientifically explainable phenomenon, like it is a neurological event. So we are essentially working with the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, so why add NK to your current scope of practice? And this is essentially what naturopathic kinesiology is all about. Naturopathic kinesiology is an umbrella term that encompasses trainings for nutritionists and naturopaths, and it is really about marrying NK with naturopathic and nutritional modalities. So for me, I put this slide together, and this was really what I felt were the major benefits. And that's the ability to offer truly holistic care. So we're really able to address not just the physical, but the mental, the emotional and the spiritual, like I mentioned. We're talking about the ability to apply not just muscle testing, because there's, like I said, muscle testing is very common out there. But with NK, we're actually able to use muscle testing as a tool to actually apply very in-depth biochemical applications to the kinesiology. So we can actually work with the whole pathophysiology of a condition. We can look at all of the drivers of a disease, and we can actually apply kinesiology techniques to that. So it's really incredibly detailed, really beyond what I could even explain in a webinar. Okay, so yeah, another one is increased repeat business. So a huge part of adding NK is, as we know as practitioners, often we have a client and it takes a little bit of time for them to see a result, and then there's that period of time where they're changing a lot of their diet, or they're having to take supplements, and they may be spending money and time and they're not necessarily feeling better straight away. And that's that difficult phase where, sometimes we can lose that compliance. But what we find is that because they often experience such significant shifts after even just one session, they feel a real improvement, or they feel a change. And it really does encourage that repeat business. It really does encourage that word of mouth and that kind of thing. Supporting your current methods and protocols by allowing you to refine your prescriptions and dosages. This is a very exciting aspect of NK. So this allows us to actually balance and de-stress supplements to our client's energy field. And this actually helps with being able to refine our prescriptions as well. Increased treatment compliance. Again, that's something that sort of feeds into what I mentioned before. You're building trust. And, you know, often when their body tells them what they need, they're more likely to listen than when you tell them what they need. That's often what I've found anyway. The ability to address and resolve like those deep-seated roadblocks to getting better. You know, we all know that we have those clients that they just have those blocks, and kinesiology really gets in there and helps with those sabotage patterns. So we're offering 2 certificates. Most of you probably have received an email from me with an outline and a course guide and that sort of thing. So if you haven't, please let me know. I'll put my email address up at the end. So the first one is our professional certificate training in nutritional kinesiology. And our second one is our advanced professional certificate training in naturopathic kinesiology. So I just want to, you know, let you all know that you don't have to be just a nutritionist to do the nutritional and just a naturopath to do the naturopathic. It's not like that. But you do need to have actually done our nutritional kinesiology certificate to be able to do the naturopathic certificate, because a lot of the prerequisites are in there. And just letting you know, all workshops are actually eligible for CPE points too. The nutritional kinesiology actually equates to 30 days of training over 11 workshops, and the naturopathic kinesiology is 35 days of training over 13 workshops. So it's definitely something that you can do over a period of time while still running your business, running your clinic, your busy life, all of those things. This is not designed for you to have to put things on hold and have to do full-time study and all of those sorts of things. Like you've probably all done enough of that to get to where you are. So some of the benefits of nutritional kinesiology. So this is a fairly detailed list. I won't go into all of them, obviously, but just gives you an idea. I mean, if you were to only do nutritional kinesiology, you would have an amazing toolkit in clinic to utilise. It really does get into, you know, some of the fundamental biochemical processes that we see and that we work with, and it gets into all of the you know, supplement side of things, the dietary side of things as well. So once you've done nutritional kinesiology and you're officially addicted to NK, that's when you can do the naturopathic kinesiology. And this is when it starts to get juicier yet again. What we're doing with naturopathic kinesiology is we've really put together workshops that are condition specific. So, you know, working with things like histamine balancing and histamine intolerance and that sort of thing, and leading into a mast cell activation syndrome protocol. We've got things around leaky gut. We've got a whole balance around leaky gut and the whole biochemistry of intestinal, you know, like all of the parts to that. We've also got a whole lot of pyrrole balancing and advanced pyrrole pathways, methylation. We've got, we're getting into a lot of burnout, like with vagus nerve stimulation and vagus nerve de-stressing, cortisol and adrenal dysfunction, and HPA axis dysfunction and that kind of thing. And just really getting into a lot to do with the immune system and all of the detailed hormone processes in the body as well. So the detail's quite enormous once you start getting onto this level too. I just wanted to share a few testimonials. So this is a practitioner, a naturopath that studied with us, and this is something that she's found. So just it's completely changed her practice, and what she's found is she's actually working mainly with kinesiology during sessions, but she's using her naturopathy still in between, and that's still, you know, very much the foundation and the backbone of how she practices. But she's finding the kinesiology is really, you know, just really given it a huge boost to the point where she's actually added days, and she's also added another clinic. So if you don't want to get really busy, This is another fantastic testimonial from a naturopath. So as a naturopath, I rely solely on my clinical, biochemical and physiological training to determine each client's unique disease process. But the ability to address the emotional and spiritual aspects of disease and the huge impact of stress on the individual adds a whole other dimension. The ability to manage stress across the physical, emotional and energetic body provides the opportunity to provide truly holistic care. And another one, it's often difficult to determine which formulation, brand or supplement an individual patient needs and at which dose. To apply specialised muscle testing techniques that are designed specifically for supplements adds an enormous advantage in terms of clinical outcomes and creating the ideal prescription for each individual client based on their unique physical, emotional, spiritual and energetic makeup. So this is a really important, I think, point of difference, is that when we use supplement balancing with NK, we're not just muscle testing if somebody needs a supplement or not. We're trained to actually balance a supplement to the client's energy and to actually be able to help discern which supplements are needed and what the priority is and what the dose is. It's actually quite detailed and in depth, and so it can make a huge difference. And often I find, you know, as a naturopath, you know, my mind's going, oh my God, you know, I need to give them this and this and this and this shit, you know. It's like, oh no, and you know, you don't want to bombard your clients with too many things because we know that's the fastest way that they won't come back. And it's often hard to know, you know, especially if you're wanting to get that, you know, the most results for them in the shortest period of time, yet still be addressing those underlying drivers at the same time, not just managing symptoms. And also, you know, you want to build trust with them as well, and you don't want to give them too much. And so this is where I find NK is just such a lifesaver and such a breath of fresh air, because it allows me to refine and to prioritise, and it allows me to know what the right combination for that client is and in what order and at what dose. And sometimes it's more than what I think, sometimes it's less. It's really unique. This is a case study example I wanted to share. This was actually a client of mine. This is very much a summary of what we've done. She saw me quite a lot over a period of months. A 39-year-old female. She had long-term rheumatoid arthritis and was wanting to decrease her cortisone. She was on 10 milligrams per day at the time, and she wanted to manage her condition naturally and prevent or reverse medication damage. So we addressed her case naturopathically. I used anti-inflammatories, I used probiotics, gut healing. We worked with nervous system and adrenal support. We did dietary interventions and we did stress management. And she was pretty compliant most of the time. Using NK, we were able to add a whole nother level to her treatment. So we used histamine balancing and the immune hologram formats that were relative to her actual pathology. So that was a really exciting way to work. And what we found is we had a lot of anger to address, so particularly in her joints and connective tissues. And this was specifically around her relationship with her mother. So rage featured very heavily for this client. In conjunction with this, we de-stressed energy around Epstein-Barr virus, and I don't actually believe we had any pathology confirming it, but there was a lot of energy showing on it, and so we worked with that. And we also worked around foods, including you know, immunoglobulin reactions as well. And we looked at deep adrenal balancing for long-term stress, because that was definitely a big feature for her. So this client continued to come and see me regularly, and we worked on the different layers. There were lots of different layers for her physically and also emotionally. And then she actually provided me with a fantastic testimonial, which I just thought I'd share. So this was recently, she emailed this to me. My rheumatologist took x-rays last month to monitor the joint degeneration, and today I got the results, no degeneration. They are normal and the cortisone hasn't been so bad on my body. He's happy for me to take care of my diet and reduce it to 3 milligrams a day and not go on any other drug or get off drugs altogether in the next 6 months. I'm so excited. that the RA hasn't caused permanent damage, and I'm working on releasing my stored anger, which I feel is quite pivotal to my healing moving forward. So she was a beautiful woman. I really loved working with her, and she really progressed in leaps and bounds, and she really felt a lot more empowered, actually. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I felt that she was benefiting from, was just a sense of empowerment over her disease. And then we've got a heart rate variability case study. So this is an interesting one. So this was on a 67-year-old male. 2 tests were done 38 minutes apart. So we used what's called the NK burnout balance. So this is exactly what that sounds like. It's for people who are burnt out. So it works on the cardiac ganglion. Sorry, it looks like there's a typo there. And de-stressing the unmyelinated vagus nerve, cortisol and adrenal function, and reverse T3, so those signs of burnout. So the deep breathing test determines the current state of the parasympathetic nervous system. And so we measured this by looking at the 3 parts of the vagal braking system. So flexibility, tone and dynamics. So for people who love graphs and charts, this is for you. So this is actually before the test. So this man, if you look in the middle of the circle there, you can see he was in the 20th percentile for his age in terms of flexibility, tone and dynamics. So that's not ideal. It's not a great result. This is prior to the test. Sorry, prior to the balance, I should say, prior to doing the burnout balance. And this was after the burnout balance. You can see that there, if you look at the triangle again inside the circle, you can see the improvements. This is 38 minutes after. So that's how long the balance took, 30 minutes. So flexibility improved by 45.2%, dynamics 73.8%, and tone 36%. So it's a pretty significant result. Okay, so just a little overview about why study with us. We have flexible study options, which is extremely important. We're all busy. We all have businesses and families and patients and that sort of thing. It's clinically relevant. So this is the whole point of putting these programs together, was to create something for practitioners that they could actually take back to their clinic and start utilising straight away. Something that they can use that's professional as well, that highly professional and skilled. So also working with a very specialised stream of kinesiology with, like I sort of have explained, NK has a lot of very high reputation worldwide. It's been, in 2 decades worth of development. Hugo is certainly not slowing down. He's still creating courses as we speak, and is very much on the cutting edge of keeping educated and up with what's happening in the latest developments scientifically. And also just the ability to add another modality to your current clinical practice without having to go out and obtain a whole nother qualification. Certainly, once you get to a certain point as a professional, you do want to keep learning, but, going and getting a whole other qualification can feel a bit daunting. So we really wanted to create something that was going to feel achievable. But if you do want to get a whole nother qualification, you can. So NK Institute is a government accredited training organisation, and it has been for, I think, about a decade, and has been offering kinesiology qualifications during that time. So if you want to actually get a full kinesiology qualification, you absolutely can. And we offer from basic practitioner up to advanced diploma, and you can come in from the graduate nutritional kinesiology or the naturopathic kinesiology, and you can funnel straight in. And if you want to go and do a bachelor degree, you can as well. So where to from here? Well, my name is Carrie, as I said, and that's my email address. So I'm really overseeing naturopathic kinesiology for NK. So any questions, or if you want to email me anything at any stage, you can. We also have our wonderful administration coordinator, Paulette, who unfortunately couldn't be on the webinar tonight because she's not well. But that is her email address, and she is the go-to person for anything to do with enrolment inquiries. At this stage, we're actually looking at an intake in Perth in September, which we're pretty excited about. So any Perth people, you know, please get in touch, because, you know, being able to confirm enrolment numbers, this just means that we can get the ball rolling as soon as possible. We also have a Melbourne intake that we're doing very soon, I think only in a couple of weeks, starting at the end of this month. So if anyone lives in Melbourne and is keen to get started, you absolutely can. Next year we'll have more intakes in Melbourne and Perth, and also Murwillumbah, Brisbane, Sydney we're looking at, Rockhampton and Cairns. We have existing groups there. So if you're close to any of these places, please let us know. And we are very flexible in terms of getting courses going in new areas if we have the numbers. What I might do is just bring up the chat box and just see if there's any questions. How do you navigate between supplement recommendations against the muscle-tested taking of a supplement? Can I just confirm what you mean by that? How do you navigate between do you mean as in like what the recommended scientific dosage is as opposed to what the muscle is saying?
Yeah, so like I'm not naturopathically trained, but I work with a local naturopath, and I find, or I kind of like, I'm trying to navigate between, I send my client to a naturopath with what the muscles have tested up in dosage, but then when my client arrives at the naturopath, they're like, oh no, that's way too much. So how does that work? Because that kind of response is a bit like the medical model, where it's like, no, this is what we follow as the script.
Yeah.
But with kinesiology, one of, you know, its core values is the what's the word? Not commitment, but, you know, what the body of the individual needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's important to really remember is we're coming from the angle of trained naturopaths using kinesiology in this instance. And so if you are already trained in supplements and prescribing, you're already coming from knowledge and education and experience. And what we're really sort of, what I feel is being able to use the kinesiology as a way to refine that and optimize that. I think you get issues and problems can arise when you have people who may be, or practitioners that may be bringing in techniques that might not be in the actual scope of practice. And so I think it's really important that if you are testing against somebody's supplements when they've been prescribed by someone who's trained in supplements, and you're a kinesiologist, you really need to be working with that naturopath to actually find what's best for the client, because it starts to become a little bit sort of a bit murky. So what we're really wanting to promote here is what we're essentially wanting to promote here is stress around supplements. So we're taking the stress out, we're balancing the supplement to the client. And if the practitioner doesn't have nutritional or naturopathic training or supplement prescribing training, that's where it ends.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, lovely.
No worries.
Cheers.
Any other questions? Come on, guys, hit me up. No. That's great. So what we'll do is from here, we'll send through a copy of the PDF of tonight's presentation. So that will go into your email address, into your inbox at some stage, I guess, in the next probably day or so. I'm not sure. I'll check with Paulette, but that will be something to look out for. And I'll probably send a follow-up email as well. So if anyone has any questions, you know, they can contact me directly as well. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on board tonight. It was a real pleasure to share with you. And yeah, I hope I looked at the camera enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.